Okay, Australia and Brazil have played out a thrilling group stage match in the World Cup, the Women's World Cup in France, in Montpellier, and it's finished 3-2 to Australia. There were twists and turns from minute 1 to minute 90. There's 4 VAR checks in there. There's penalties been given, there's penalties been not given, there's offside checks, there's all sorts. And these checks for VAR are actually very important to the sport as a whole, for what the remit of VAR is, how far you can go back in a play to avoid a decision, and what is offside, what is an unnatural position to have your hand, what is deliberate and accidental handball, how many phases can VAR go back to check, because ultimately all these VAR checks have altered the outcome of the game, because they've been integral to the game, because goals have been given and not given. Now, the first VAR penalty check comes on 19 minutes. Now, Australia have been dominating the game at this point. Brazil are holding on to a 0-0. There is a penalty shout. There is a VAR check. It would have been given as a penalty, but they've gone back several phases of play to an accidental handball, in my view, when 2 players are going to challenge. Now, the current ruling for handball is unnatural position of the arm. The arm is in the most natural position I can think of, going for that type of challenge. The ball bounces up and the player is basically naturally reacting, as muscle memory will, to protect yourself. And the arms go like this, and the ball hits the arm. There is no attempt for the hand to go to the ball, which is deliberate handball. That is completely accidental. But it comes down now to the interpretation of natural position or unnatural position of your arm and hand. So that now changes the definition of accidental and deliberate handball. And therefore, the penalty is not given on 19 minutes. That's a 2-minute check. A free kick is given to Brazil. They get possession, end up down the other end, where there's another VAR penalty check in their favour, which takes another 2 minutes. And then Marta scores the subsequent penalty on 27 minutes. The game has been flipped on its head. Brazil have not been in the game to this point. 2 VAR checks in a handful of minutes have swung the game round. Brazil are 1-0 up. Australia are scratching their heads. And VAR and its remit is thrown up into the air of how many phases you can go back. What is deliberate handball? What is accidental handball? And this natural, unnatural position of the arm-hand area. I'm just going to scratch my head and say FIFA have completely muddled the thinking with handball. And they've also, with the VAR, how many phases can you go back in the play, please? Because there's 2 more VAR checks after this that again, question what is offside, what is interfering with play offside, and again, how many phases can you go back? Because the final VAR review, the ball's gone out. And the goalkeeper wants to take the goal kick, and then they go back. So I'm really, really surprised. The VAR remit of the time frame you can have is going to be an ongoing thing. Now, Marta's penalty is scored in 27 minutes. Brazil suddenly are in the game and looking for a second. They get the second goal from Cristiano from a brilliant cross. And that's her second headed goal of the tournament. And Brazil is suddenly 2-0 up when, for the first 19, 20, 25 minutes, they're not in the game. VAR has helped them change the momentum. It's a momentum changer, and the amount of time that both the checks have taken is near enough 4 to 5 minutes of play actually stopped. So the momentum of the game has changed. It gave Brazil time to reorganise and get on top. And that's something else. The time taken for VAR to come to a decision is an ongoing question. So it's 2-0. And then Caitlin Ford scores right on the stroke of half-time for Australia, makes it 2-1, and that changes the game yet again. It's 2-1 to Brazil at half-time, but the momentum has already swung. After half-time, it's all Australia again. Brazil just cannot get going in the second half. They get no momentum. They're not fluid in their play. Lots of mistakes. Chloe Logarzo's goal is a cross-come shot that no one touches going into the box, straight in. And Kerr is in the box, doesn't touch the ball, but it distracts the goalkeeper. She's onside for this. Straight in. Past Barbara, it's a goal. It's now 2-2. The game is changing rapidly. Changes by Brazil, taking Marta and Cristiano off. They completely lose their spine. They lose their cohesion even more. And then we have the offside goal that's onside because of another VAR check. Now, Logarzo crosses the ball, or pings the ball long. Kerr is making a run into the box. The Brazilian defender, Monica, heads it over her goalkeeper with a brilliant header. If that is a centre-forward getting on the end of that pass, that is a brilliant finish. It's the defender. It's the second own goal that I've seen in 2 days. Brilliant header. Absolutely brilliant finish. Wrong net. But when the ball is struck for the pass come cross, Kerr is offside. By the time the ball is headed, Kerr is now onside. She's come back from the offside position. She has not touched the ball whatsoever. The VAR check takes several minutes on this one. So now this changes the definition of offside interfering with play, because there are two other Brazilian defenders who are behind her in the box when the ball is headed, who would have covered that had it not gone in. Plus the goalkeeper is there. So there's a clear view for the goalkeeper. There is not her running across the line of sight of the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's got about 30 yards, to see it. Well, 18 yards, 20 yards to see it. She's not run across the line of the goalkeeper and run in front of her face. There's a good 20 yards of vision for the goalkeeper. And Barbara's beaten all ends up. Now, was that offside? Is that interfering with play? Kerr doesn't even touch the ball. There are two defenders who are going to be covering behind, so even if that does loop over Monica's head and she doesn't touch it, there's a defender behind who's very likely to get a touch on the ball, plus the goalkeeper, plus the other defender running back. So that's an interesting one. And now it's 3-2, and the game has swung again. It's now Australia's game. The play is mostly Australia's for the rest of the game. They want to get that fourth goal. Brazil have the occasional foray upfield on the counter-attack, and then there's the other VAR review for a penalty. And that takes another 2 minutes. And this was actually more stonewall of a penalty than the previous two VAR checks for penalties, in my view. I'm now scratching my head. It's not given. So VAR's consistency in this game has varied wildly. And in the end, VAR's the talking point in what was otherwise a really thrilling game. It was a thrilling game to watch for women's football. I think many a men's game would be happy with that kind of... The fans would be happy with that kind of thriller, where one side's still up and loses 3-2. But VAR has dominated this game. And as a neutral watching it, I think that's taken something away from the game. 4 big talking points throughout the game have been dominated by VAR. Some of the goals in there, Caitlin Ford, Christiana's and Chloe Lagarto's goals, VAR's not involved. The Monica own goal, VAR's involved, and Marta getting the penalty, VAR's involved, plus the two other VARs that haven't given penalties. It's a talking point, and it's going to be a talking point continuing on, not just in this World Cup, but in the Champions League, the Europa League, Euro 2020. That's in the men's game. It's going to be a talking point over the next 18 months, I have no doubt, and I think for years to come, until they figure out until they fine tune it. Rugby Union, Rugby League has not had this kind of debate when it comes to the TMO. They just haven't. This is far too variable in my view. Far too variable in the same game, whereas with the TMO and rugby, it might be different in one game to another game interpretation. But in the same game, the interpretation with the VAR is so wild. It's unreal. But there we go. I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please leave your comments below, and I will have some more videos for you very, very soon.